Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on Zoom and on Facebook. We have a very interesting conversation tonight, a very fascinating topic. This is something that I enjoy very much, and it's on the Kabbalah. And tonight's topic is 7 ways your personality could shine. And this is really like advertised. This is according to the Kabbalah. This is the road to personal growth and development. And it's especially relevant to this time of year, as we're about to find out. So the time of year that we find ourselves in right now, this time between the 2 holidays of Pesach and Shavuot, there is a special emphasis during this time on introspection and personal growth. And the reason for this is because immediately following Pesach, which was the exodus from Egypt, the Jewish people, they were coming from slavery, not just physical slavery, but they were in a very deep spiritual impurity as well. And then they were freed from slavery, they were freed from Egypt, and now they were heading out and going to receive the Torah at Mount Sinai just 7 weeks later. And this was going to be, when they would receive the Torah at Mount Sinai, this was going to be the ultimate freedom, especially freedom for the soul, also physical freedom. And it was going to be the ultimate spiritual high. So they were going from a very dark place, both physically and spiritually. They were in a slavery plus spiritual impurity, and they were going all the way to the other extreme to receive a godly revelation on the Torah. And this was going to be the ultimate freedom and spiritual high. So they were going from one extreme to the other. And so during this time period, it was a period of 49 days, the Jewish people had a special mitzvah commandment to count the days. And not just to count the days, but to prepare themselves during this time for this awesome event. And counting the days was kind of like counting the accomplishments, the achievements, and watching the progress. So really making every single day count, and paying attention to developing the character and all of that. And so this is what happened in the olden days, that first year when the Jewish people left Egypt. But this is something that we continue until this very day. We also have this mitzvah, this commandment of counting the days, counting all of the days until Shavuot, and not just to count the days, but to make the days count. So we also prepare ourselves for this year's giving of the Torah, to re-experience, the giving of the Torah. And so this time that we find ourselves in now, this time between Pesach and Shavuot, there is an important emphasis on introspection and refining our character. And it's a very special time, and it's very, in a way, a very important and also enjoyable thing to do, because it allows us basically to take a journey into our psyche, so that we could become more in touch with our essence, with our soul, with our neshama. And hopefully through the process, it'll help us recognize more of our potential, or our full potential, hopefully, as much as we could learn about ourselves. And ultimately, it allows us to become more free, because the more we could understand about ourselves, the more we could develop ourselves, the more free we actually become. So in general, there are, in a person, there are 7 emotions, according to the Kabbalah. And these 7 emotions make up the human experience. It's the makeup of our character and our personality. These 7 emotions, everyone has different amounts of each. The way you're born, there's nature and nurture, but there's these 7 emotions, and these 7 emotions is what makes up our character, our personality, according to the Kabbalah. And this is what we're going to explore today. We're going to talk about what these 7 are. We'll cover as much as we could. And through that, we'll hopefully learn a lot about ourselves and learn how our personality we could learn more about ourselves, and we could learn how to make our personalities shine, how to develop ourselves and refine ourselves and become more productive, happier, and better. So what is this? What are these 7 emotions? Why 7? Where does the number 7 come from? So if you remember from the beginning of the Torah, Bereshit, Genesis, it says that man created God in his image. What does it mean that God created a man in his image? What is this image that the Torah is talking about? So the Kabbalah says that God has 7 attributes. And what that means is that God chooses to express himself in 7 ways. So obviously God is infinite and unlimited, but God chooses to express himself in specific ways. And there are 7 ways that God has these 7 attributes that chose to express himself in these 7 ways. And so God basically created the world, which is God's expression. God created the world using these 7 powers, or these 7 attributes. And we're not going to go into this specific point tonight, but it happens to be that in each of the 7 days of creation, the creations that were created on each particular day is associated and is connected with the attribute of that day, the power of that day. So we're not going to get involved in that now, but the idea is that God expresses himself in these 7 ways. God created the world, which is another expression of himself. He did that in these 7 ways. And when it says that God created man in his image, it means that God embedded in us and built us up, so to speak, created us, created our souls, our characters, our personalities with these 7 attributes, and that becomes our 7 emotions, which is really who we are and what we are in our essence. So let's find out what these 7 are, what these 7 attributes, these 7 powers, these 7 emotions are, and what the Kabbalah says is the makeup of our personality, of our character, and through understanding what these 7 are, hopefully we'll be able to discover how we could make our character better, how we could make our character shine, and how we could make our personalities, our characters, reach its fullest potential. So that's the introduction. Anybody has any questions or comments on that, please go right ahead. Otherwise, we'll start with the beginning. Okay. So number 1, the first of the 7 emotions is chesed in Hebrew, and that means kindness. Some people translate it as loving kindness. So what is this kindness, and what are the details? What are the characteristics of this attribute, of this emotion? So when we say kindness, we mean unlimited giving. basically pure kindness to everyone. It doesn't matter who it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter what it is that's being given, and it doesn't matter when it is. So basically, just pure, unlimited giving without any calculations, without any reasons, without any limitations, just pure sharing, giving, expressing love, kindness, um, just showering love and giving without any restriction, just without any rules, without any reasons or calculations. Okay, so that's the definition of our first emotion. So we want to understand a little bit what this means in God, and also what it means in ourselves. So let's start with God. When it came to the creation, so God creating the world, understandably, this first attribute of kindness was an essential aspect, because basically God was being kind and giving and expressing, creating the world. And it's not like there was someone who deserved God's giving and God's creating, right? There was no one who did something to deserve God sharing and expressing. So of course, when we talk about creation, of course, kindness is the number one power and the number one attribute that that would be relevant, for God creating the world. In terms of, so that's in terms of God. In terms of ourselves, and in terms of what it means for us, and in terms of self-development, love, right? We said kindness and is hand in hand with love and giving and sharing. Love is one of the most powerful emotions, a necessary component of life. According to the Kabbalah, love really means becoming one with someone or something. In fact, the Hebrew word for love, which is ahava, if you count up the letters, and in the Hebrew language, we talked about this in the past, in the Hebrew language, every letter has a numerical value. So if you count up the letters of the word ahava, the word love, you get the number 13. Okay, and also if you count up the letters of the word echad, which means one, you also get 13. Which means this is hinting to the fact that love, according to Kabbalah, according to Judaism, is about becoming one, right? Becoming one with the thing that you love or the person that you love. So that's love, and love is also really being able to experience another person and allowing another person to experience you. And it's also the tool, one of the tools, a very powerful tool through which we could experience God and connect with God. So this is all understanding the first attribute, the first emotion of kindness. And in terms of self-development, there are, now that we know a little bit about this emotion, this is a great time between Pesach and Shavuot to ask some questions to ourselves, to think about some of these things. And some questions that we might want to ask is, what do you choose to love? What do you want to love? And according to the Kabbalah, love means becoming one with something or someone. Who is it? Who is it that you want to become one with? What are you attracted to? Who are you attracted to? So these are important things. It's an important question to ask, because sometimes we need to take a step back and think to ourselves, are we putting our love in the right place? Are we in the right relationships? You know, it's good to take a step back and think about, you know, what is it that we do love? What is it that we want to love? What do we, you know, aspire to love, and so on. Kindness is about giving. So it's these days, these weeks are a good time to ask ourselves, is it easy for us to give, to share, or is it difficult for us to give? Is it difficult is it difficult to let someone into your life? Is it difficult to let someone into my life and you know, share with them, give them, open up to them, to make space for them? Am I afraid to be vulnerable? Right. So these are all questions that we could ask ourselves and we could think about to help, you know, develop this first emotion of kindness. And also, just another question that comes to mind is you know, we're very used to the relationships that we already have or the people who we already know, but it's also good to think about the fact that to think about strangers. Do you have the capacity? Are you able to be there even for a stranger, for someone who you might not know, who needs a helping hand? So this is all this is all kindness. This is all related to the first emotion, to the first attribute, to the first part of our personality. And so just to recap it in a couple of sentences, kindness is really about unlimited giving. So just you know, showering kindness, love, giving without any restriction, without any limits. And in terms of God, you know, we understand what it means that God is just giving and creating. And in terms of self-development, we could take the time, hopefully, to think about, you know, what is it that we love? Where do we want our love to take us? Is it difficult for us to, you know, to make space for others? And are we able to, you know, to reach out to people outside of our circle, even to strangers, and show kindness to them? So this is our first emotion, the emotion of chesed, the attribute of chesed, kindness. Please let us know if you have some comment or question on the number one emotion. Okay, I guess we're good. So we'll continue moving right along with number two. Attribute number two, which is the second emotion, second part of the makeup of our personality and character. And this one is gevura in Hebrew, gevura. And in English, that would mean justice or discipline. And let's just get a definition here. What do we mean when we say gevura? What do we mean when we talk about justice and discipline? So as far as the definition, it means restricting. It means restraining, holding back, and basically only giving to those who deserve, and that even those who do deserve should receive only exactly what they earned. So when we talk about justice and discipline, it basically means that this part of the person is the part of the person that is calling to you or making you hold back and say, wait a minute, this person does not deserve. You know, we're not just going to give, we're not just going to pour, we're not just going to share, but let's hold back and let's only give what the person deserves, and what is, what is necessary to give, what's right to give. So it's very calculated. It's it's about justice. What's the right thing to do? What is it exactly that they deserve? And it's about discipline and holding back. So you might feel like, the kindness side of you might feel like giving and sharing, but this givura, this discipline side of you is going to say, hold it. Let's do only what they deserve. Okay, so now let's talk about this a little bit within God, and then within ourselves and self-development. So in terms of God giving, if God was only giving through kindness and only giving in unlimited kindness, it would be too much for us to handle, and it would be too much for the world to handle. It would, think of your light fixture that's on your ceiling. It's always going to say the maximum amount of wattage that's allowed to plug into the socket, right? You can't take a 100 watt bulb and put it into a socket that could only carry 50 watts. If you put in something that's too strong, it's going to explode. It's going to shatter. It's going to be too much. And the same thing is with God. Think about how God is unlimited. God is infinite. If God is only going to give in kindness, if God is only going to pour and shower us with energy and with stuff, whatever it is, it's going to overwhelm. And not just that, it's going to be destructive. So too much good is not necessarily good. Too much energy is not necessarily what you want. It's going to bust. It's going to burst. It's going to explode. Imagine a small child who asks a question, and the parent or the teacher take the question, and because they love the child so much, they decide, let's give the child all the information that we have on the topic, so we could really share with them whatever we know. But of course, if they're sharing everything that they know with a small child, everything on the topic, without filtering out the information, and without catering the information to the child's level, not only is it not helpful, but it's going to be overwhelming and destructive to the child. The child is not going to really get anything out of this giving. And so this emotion of givura, which means justice and discipline, basically restricting the flow of giving, is very important, because too much kindness, too much giving is simply not going to work. It could be, well, sometimes it might work, but sometimes it might not. So that's where this emotion comes into play. And so we just talked about it with God, in terms of God creating the world, there needed to be a certain restriction. Otherwise, too much energy, infinite energy, the world cannot exist. The world would burn up, it would explode, it wouldn't work out. So that's in terms of God. Then in terms of ourselves, in terms of self-development, discipline basically serves to concentrate our efforts, and our efforts, our giving, and our love, the love that we show, the love that we give. So it kind of, the discipline kind of guides it and directs it to the right place, to the right people, to the right relationships. Sometimes we need to reserve our love to certain people or to certain times. You don't want to be taken advantage of. You don't want to be in the wrong relationship. So the discipline is basically is what guides the love and directs the love, to the right place, to the right person, to the right time, to the right situation. So that's one aspect of this restriction of the gevurah, of the justice and discipline. Another aspect of this emotion is the idea of respect. Okay, and it might not be the first thing that comes to people's mind when it comes to love and relationships and things like that. But respect is very important, and here's why. Disciplining yourself to hold back with giving and sharing love is sometimes very important in every relationship. And any healthy relationship and any healthy love requires at times to hold back and to give respect to the other. So think of any relationship. So imagine it's the beginning of the relationship, and there's a tremendous amount of love, and at some point, it might take a month, it might take a year, it might take 30 years, but at some point the honeymoon is over, and at some point you realize that you're not the same as your partner, and you're quite different. And one reaction might be, to try to ignore those differences. But what's truly needed, what's truly important, is respect. To respect who they are and to respect their perspective. So you might feel the urge, because you love them so much. Because you love them so much, you might feel like explaining your opinion and showering them with information and your perspective, because you're so sure that you're right, and you're confident that what you're saying is the right thing and what's going to be helpful to to your partner, and this is all coming from a place of love. But sometimes what's necessary is to hold back with that love and to show respect. To show respect, that means to listen to the other person, to their perspective, to listen to what they have to say, and to hear where they are coming from. So sometimes you need to hold back on the love. Love is really about giving and sharing, but sometimes you need to put a break on that and start to listen and give space for the other to share their opinion and their perspective, which might be very different than yours. And this is true in all relationships. Think about parents, children, the people who you have these relationships with. They may not share the same opinions as you. They might not share the same views. They might not share the same hobbies. And so showing respect means that when you want to give and when you want to take care of them, it's not about giving them what you like. It's not about giving them the opportunity to do your hobbies, to do the things that you like doing. But respect means to give them what they need, to put yourself in their perspective, in their shoes, listen to what they, to where they're coming from, what they need, and give them what they need. So this is a very important aspect of any relationship, and this is one of the aspects of a gevurah, justice and discipline. So love is very important, but again, too much love, always giving, might not be good. You need to give. You need to make some space. You need to restrict. Sometimes you need to restrict the giving, where it should be, and sometimes you need to hold back, and give respect to where it's needed. So some questions we could ask ourselves, talking about self-development and this time that we find ourselves in introspection and trying to refine our character. So thinking about this emotion, some questions we might ask ourselves: do I have enough discipline in my life? Do I have enough discipline in my interactions? Now, sometimes people have too much, right? Everyone is sometimes, for some people, the kindness is the stronger emotion. For some people, giving space and respect and restriction and restraining is the more natural emotion, right? Some people enjoy the COVID lockdown where you stay home all the time. Not everybody loves seeing people all the time and sharing and meeting and discussing. Some people by nature, are more reserved or more introverted. So you have all types of people, but we all have these emotions, and we need to think to ourselves, which ones do we need to work on? So somebody who might not have, so we could ask ourselves, do we have enough discipline in our life, in our relationships? Do we have too much? Perhaps maybe we need to think more about the kindness and work on that. So everyone has their set, and everyone has their nature and different amounts of each. And this is what the character refinement is all about. Other questions you might ask yourself is, do I take time each day for personal accounting of what I did and what I plan to do, of my achievements, my accomplishments? It's good to take a step back every day or from time to time and think, was it a good day? Did I accomplish? Is tomorrow going to be the same, or is tomorrow going to be better than today? So this is the second emotion, the emotion of givura, justice and discipline. So just to recap in a few sentences, it's about restricting and holding back, only giving what is deserved. So in terms of God, that meant restricting some of the energy. Too much good, too much energy, too much information could be overwhelming, could be destructive. In terms of self-development, we talked about how the discipline guides the love, so that it should be in the right place, in the right time, in the right relationships and things like that. And the other aspect we talked about was respect. So that's also comes from the same place of holding back and giving that space for the other. So that is number 2. That is emotion number 2. And we'll continue with emotion 3, unless someone has some comments or some questions. Please let me know. Okay, I like when people argue with me. Don't be shy. We'll have time at the end as well. Okay, so moving right along to number 3. Emotion number 3. Emotion number 3 is in Hebrew tiferet. Tiferet means compassion and harmony. So first, to give definition, what does it mean? What's tiferet? What is this compassion and harmony that we're talking about? So this compassion is what could blend together. It could blend the kindness and the discipline. the kindness and the justice. So on the one hand, you have this free outpouring of love. On the other hand, you have this justice and discipline of restricting and holding back. Compassion is the emotion that brings them together and makes a blend of them. The exact translation of the word tiferet means beauty. Okay, actually, the translation itself is not the literal translation is not compassion. The literal translation is beauty. Why is this? Why is this the name? Why is this what it's called? Why is it called beauty? And the reason is because according to the Kabbalah, one color is not beautiful. One color is not true beauty. True beauty, according to the Kabbalah, is a blend of colors. And the same is here with the emotions. This emotion is, even though it's compassion, it's called tiferet. It's called beauty because it is only now that you have this blend between the kindness and the severity, the kindness and the discipline. It's only when you have this blend of the two that you have something truly beautiful. This is a real beauty according to the Kabbalah. So what is this compassion? What does it mean that these two are coming together? What does it mean that we have this blend of the two? So first we'll talk about what it means within God. So first in terms of God's creation. So compassion basically means that there's this perfect balance between giving and concealment, right? We're talking about a balance between kindness and severity, or kindness and discipline, or restriction. So we mentioned this a few minutes ago, that too much good, too much energy could be overwhelming, could be destructive. So what's needed here is this perfect balance of the two. And compassion, tiferet, this emotion is what created this perfect blend when it came to God creating the world. So too much energy and the world wouldn't be able to handle it. Imagine if the sun was too close to the earth. The earth would be all burned up. So imagine God is infusing the world, or infusing a person with too much energy, too much battery, too much electricity. It's going to explode. It's going to destruct. It's not going to work out. Too little energy, and it's not enough for the world to survive. It's not enough for the world to exist. Imagine if the sun is too far from the world will be too cold. It won't have enough, right? So it has to be just the perfect balance. So with God's energy, too much is no good. Too little is no good. So this perfect balance of this beauty, this tiferet, of blending together the kindness and the restriction, and the discipline. This is what makes it possible for the world to exist. This is what makes it possible for the creation to survive, for the universe to survive. Now, in terms of relationships, what is this compassion? So this compassion is, again, bringing together the kindness and severity. And the reason why it could bring these two sides together, think about any mediator, any middle person who's bringing together two people. The mediator, the middle person has to be able to relate to each party, right? Think about a translator. A translator has to know each of the two languages, right? He has to know the language of person A, has to understand the language of person B, and then the person could serve as a translator. And this, but this is anytime there's some third party bringing two parties together, this third party has to be able to relate to each, has to be able to agree with each one, has to be able to understand each one very well. And in this case, what does it mean that compassion could bring, how is it that compassion could bring together kindness and severity? So the reason is because compassion could agree with both sides. How so? Compassion basically says, it says to the discipline, it says to the justice, it says, you're right. This person is not deserving of our love, of our giving, of our sharing. So the compassion is agreeing and is understanding, most importantly, agreeing with the emotion of discipline and saying, you're right. You're right. In this case, they don't deserve what we have to give, what the kindness that we have to give, the love that we have to give. But I also agree, says the compassion. I also agree with kindness, because and that we should give. We should give nevertheless. We should share. We should pour some kindness and some love, because we have mercy for them. We have compassion towards them. Right. So the reason why the compassion is able to bring the two together is because he agrees with both. He agrees with the discipline that, yeah, it's true. In this case, they don't deserve what we have to give, but we should give it anyways because we have compassion for them. They don't deserve it, but we should give it to them anyways. So in a way, the compassion is merging, is combining the two together, but leaning a little bit more to the kindness, and that's why ultimately it's going to give. In terms of self-development, what is this all about? We have this compassion. So naturally, we don't feel for many people. We have the people that we have, our close people, our family, our close friends. We have the people who we know, the people in our inner circle. And these are the people who we feel for, but we don't feel for many people. And compassion is what builds the bridge and connects us to people outside of our circle. So compassion is really a bridge builder. So a bridge builder and a way of connecting to others. So suddenly you could feel for another person because you found out that they're going through something difficult. They're going through a difficult time. So there's some tragedy, something happened. They might be a stranger, they might be a person who's not a close friend of yours, but all of a sudden you have a feeling towards them, you have compassion towards them, you have mercy for them. Now, once the bridge is built, once this bridge of compassion is built, then the road is already there, and now love could travel on that road as well. So what does that mean? That means that you could theoretically be angry with someone, but then find out that they're in pain. Suddenly that anger could go away. Compassion will kick in, and then you could begin to love. Okay, I know that sounds a little deep. Let's give an example. Let's get a real life example. Let's say you're upset with your child because the child misbehaved at school or destroyed something, made some trouble, whatever it was. So you're very upset. Maybe you're angry at your child. But then you find out that the child is suffering from something, and maybe that caused them to do it, maybe that didn't cause them. But the fact is that the child is suffering from something. The child is going through something very challenging and very difficult. All of a sudden, what happens? That anger, that feeling of being upset disappears, and it turns into compassion. all of a sudden you feel sorry. You feel sorry because, this is what the child is going through. This is what, this is something difficult. They're suffering, they're in pain. And once there's compassion, now there could be this, so once that bridge is built, that now love could flow freely, through that bridge. So first you were upset, first you were angry, but then you found out that the child was suffering. And then that, as soon as you found that out, all of a sudden that turned into compassion. Once you have that feeling of compassion, now there's the ability, for love to, for love to flow freely. So this is what it means that compassion is a bridge builder, and it's a connector. So if we only had the emotion of love, it would be reserved for a small amount of people, the people in our inner circle, our close friends and family. But compassion allows us to make bridges and to connect with more people. And then once the bridge is built, then love could there could be the emotion of love towards those people as well. So what are some questions that we could ask ourselves in terms of this emotion of compassion? So compassion is basically putting yourself in another person's shoes, in another person's situation, in another person's experience. And you could ask yourself, or perhaps we should be asking ourselves from time to time, am I able to do that? Am I able to put myself into someone else's shoes, even if they're a stranger? And then if I feel compassion, if I feel sorry for them, do I express that? Do I show empathy? Do I do something about it? So these are some questions that we can ask about compassion. So we said we talked about the first three emotions. The first three emotions are called the primary emotions. The primary emotions. And the ones that come after this one are sort of branches that come out of these. So I think we covered enough ground for today. We'll continue with the other emotions next week. But we already got the primary emotions. We got the main ones. And just to recap, in just a couple of sentences, the first was chesed, kindness, loving kindness, which is really about unlimited giving, pouring kindness and love. Then we had gevura, which is justice and restricting and holding back and discipline. And this is really what puts a stop to the love, or guides the love, restricts it to a certain time, space, person, relationship. And then we have compassion that brings the two together, that blends the kindness and the severity together to create something beautiful, and to create a perfect beauty, a perfect balance between the kindness and severity that makes a perfect balance, and hopefully a perfect relationship. So I'm going to turn off the live stream, turn off the recording, and we will continue part 2 next week. Bezrat Hashem, God willing, continue with part 2 with the next emotions, which are actually branches of these 3, which are the primary emotions.